Hi, this time I'm going to talk about Basilisk, also known as the Koga Ninja Scrolls. Basilisk is an anime series based on a novel that features feudal Japan. However, it's a fantasy novel. So you're going to see a lot of gritty elements in Basilisk, but at the same time, you're also going to see over the top ninja powers or jutsu. This series has been called as the ninja version of Romeo and Juliet. This is probably one of the most dramatic ninja series that I have seen. I think it's important for you to know that in this video I'm going to talk about the powers and motivations of the characters in this series, and that's probably a very important spoiler because some of the moments in the anime feature the powers and motivations as key elements to produce surprise. However, I will avoid the most climactic moments in the series. So let's get started. Well, first of all, I'm using this DVD collection that contains the complete series of Basilisk. It contains 2 DVDs. That's 4 DVDs. And the quality is really good, although this slipcase is already like presenting some wear and tear here. And the plastic cases don't hold the DVDs too well together. It's kind of like those plastic cases that it doesn't hold the upper disc quite well. So even if you start like this, you know it's going to fall off inside the case. And I actually took the covers of the cases out because they're going to help me show you some of the images of the characters. We'll get into that in a bit. Basilisk is not told in a chronological order all the time. For the most part, you get the present side of things, but there will be some glimpses into the past at certain times. So, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to try to keep things in chronological order as I talk about them. So you have these 2 ninja clans. You have the Koga and the Iga. So in the Koga clan, you have the leader of the Koga clan, which is Danjo. And in the Iga ninja clan, you have Ogen. These 2 clans are enemies. They have been fighting and killing each other, who knows for how long. And mostly because they usually serve different factions and purposes, of course. So maybe at first it didn't begin as a sort of like, let's say, more visceral type of enmity. But through with the passing of the years, members of this clan killed members of that other clan. So they became quite, let's say, vengeful, or there were grudges. So there's probably a point where they forgot why they were originally fighting, and they focused more on personal losses. However, the 2 leaders, Danjo and Ogen, fell in love with each other. Danjo is a ninja, a male ninja that is very skilled at spitting poisoned needles. And he's also really good with a sword, and it is implied that he has one of the greatest powers in the series, although he never uses it when you see him fight. And Ogen is Kunoichi, a female ninja, and you don't get too much information about her. You mostly get the sense that she has some sort of like a telepathic connection with her hawk. And she probably also has one of the greatest powers of the ninja clans, but you never see her use it when the action is focused on her. So Danjo and Ogen keep meeting at night. They have this rendezvous where they love each other. Although it's important to notice something of Basilisk. Even though there are some scenes where they express love through touch, and even some violence through corruption of love. There are some rape scenes, although they are not explicit when compared to other series, or as explicit. But here in Basilisk, they really want to call your attention or awareness to the more spiritual side of love. So when you see these meetings between Danjo and Ogen, and between other ninja in the future, it's more about enjoying the other person's company. Even though there is that longing to take the person and hold that person in your arms, there is more emphasis on that. Just being around the other person is bliss. So you see Danjo and Ogen trying to form a relationship within these violent times. And they even have like a plan of getting married, because if they get married, there will be no war between the Iga and the Koga anymore. They will form a single clan. And I get the feeling that it's never like cleared in the series, but I kind of get the feeling that many things worked against them precisely because of this. Because imagine how powerful the Koga and the Iga would be if they became one clan. But suddenly there is this well, basically the village of the Iga clan of Ogen is being attacked and everybody is being killed. So Ogen and Danjo rush to the scene and they start to fight against these mysterious attackers. But it's too late. Almost everyone in the village has been killed. They only managed to rescue a few survivors. And Ogen and Danjo are trying to figure out what is going on. But then each member of their respective clans start attacking the other members of the other clan, and they are trying to stop them. But they inform Ogen that it is actually the clan of Danjo, the Koga ninja, that orchestrated that attack. And Danjo tries to deny it, to convince Ogen that it is not so, but it is too late. Ogen does not trust Danjo anymore. The love that existed between them takes a massive blow. And this is because it's quite common in warfare, and especially in ninja tactics, to play with the psychology and the heart of the enemy to achieve an objective. So it was quite plausible that the Koga clan actually worked against the Iga clan. And you will see what exactly happened later in the series during this conflict. So Danjo and Ogen are no longer lovers, and time goes by. As you can see different sections of the timeline, you will see how still Danjo and Ogen still hold a sliver of affection towards each other, not so much to the point that they mend things, but they still have that plan of trying to unify both clans into a single ninja clan, mostly through their grandchildren. So later on, you're going to see Genosuke, who is the grandchild of Danjo, and you're going to see Oboro, the granddaughter of Ogen. And they start organizing like these meetings so that they get to know each other and see if they fall in love, which it actually happens. But when you take a look at the different ninja clans separately, you see that they are actually quite decent folk on their own. You see their everyday lives, their recreational activities, and you can see that they are quite normal despite all of the violence and war. However, later on, there is Tokugawa, who has two chubby grandchildren, and he is going to leave Japan in their hands eventually. So in order for him to decide which one of his grandchildren is going to inherit Japan, he decides to have a little death match. So he invites two members of each clan to this sort of like an exhibition match at his palace. And the ones who go from the Koga ninja are Danjo, of course the leader, and he brings along Shogun. Shogun, let me show you some of the characters right away. On the Koga side, you have Danjo, although here he's already quite old. Let me see if I can get him into focus, that old guy right there, with, stroking his beard. And he brings along this spider hunchback ninja with the beard, this guy at top. And he's really bizarre. He basically comes from a line of selective breeding, and who knows what experiments they carried out or what sort of rituals they did. But he's basically like a spider man. He has great strength and great agility, and he's missing his two frontal teeth because he can shoot saliva that is kind of like spider web. And on the Iga side of things, Ogen, which as you can see, she's already a really old woman. It's quite a shame because when they were young, Danjo and Ogen, they were quite handsome. But here you can see that she's already a bit ugly. And she brings Yashamaru. It's basically this guy. Let me see if I can. That guy with the big smile. And he uses these strands that have been alchemically treated, and they are basically he can use those strands to choke people, but at the same time they are quite sharp, so they're really dangerous things, and perhaps a bit stereotypical in anime. You always see some guy using some strings to choke people or to cut them. So they have this exhibition match, and it ends up at a tie because the match is cancelled when Tokugawa has seen enough. It's Ieyasu Tokugawa, if I'm not mistaken. And it is revealed right there and right now that the, let's say, momentary truce that exists between the Koga and the Iga is lifted, and now they have permission to kill each other in the open, or in shadows, which is more ninja-like. And so you have these two scrolls detailing the names of 10 ninja of each clan that must be killed by the other clan to win the game. And each clan, of course, is going to be representing one of Tokugawa's grandchildren. So now it's a very nasty and terrifying battle between both of the ninja clans, as each of them try to murder the other ninja. Now let's talk about some of the members of each of the clans. Well, I talked about Ogen. Now let's talk about Hyoma. Hyoma, this guy with the eyes closed, he is the uncle of Ogen's grandchild. And he is always closing his eyes because he has a very special power that basically allows him to redirect the hostile intentions of others. That is, if somebody were to attack you and you open your eyes and you look at him in his eyes, you're going to make that person attack himself or herself. So let's say he wanted to cut you with a knife or something, he will have to stab himself. It's sort of like an hypnosis of sorts. It's probably based on the Tao eyes in those martial arts myths. So he has that power. He's also a very good swordsman, in my opinion. It appears that he doesn't have complete control over this eye power, which is known as dojutsu in this series. So he always has to have his eyes closed, but because of that, he has developed great sensibility. He can basically tell who is approaching at a certain distance, even how much each of those people weigh and such. Very useful. And then you have this other ninja. This is Josuke. Josuke is actually a very fat ninja. You can see him there with the beard. And his ninja power is that he's basically quite rubbery. In some way, he has developed this rubberiness to his body and skin, and you could basically stab him and your knife would like just go into him without cutting him. And he plays a lot around with this ability, and he's one of the most he's a bit like a comedy relief and a bit of a lecher in the series. It is implied that he is actually quite powerful as a ninja, but he is quite overconfident. Or maybe he doesn't take things too seriously, to put it in a way. Now let's talk about the grandchild of Ogen, which is Genosuke, here at the center, the guy with the top knot. And his special power is a great mastery of the dojutsu. As you can see, his uncle needs to keep his eyes closed all the time, but Genosuke has quite a bit of control over dojutsu, so he's a good sword fighter, sorry. Although I don't think he's the best based on what I've seen in the series. But if anyone tries to attack him, he just needs to look at them in the eyes, and they're going to kill themselves or use their abilities or anything against themselves. And you can tell that this is why the series was called Basilisk, at least in part, because some of the main characters have those eye abilities. And then you have Genosuke's cousin, which is, I forget her name, Kagero. Yeah, let me see if I can get her into. She's right here with the sad expression. Now, Kagero is a very beautiful woman, but she's a bit cursed because she has this chemical property to her body secretions that when she gets horny, to put it in a way, she produces this poison, and she kills anyone who is at a certain distance to her. So she feels a bit cursed, and she's actually in love with Genosuke, and Genosuke, her cousin. But Genosuke is in love with Ogen from the Iga Ninja clan, so it's quite a tragic love. In this series, you have two type of ninja women. You have some like Kagero, which are more on the traditional or perhaps realistic side of things, because female ninja usually use their attractiveness and beauty to seduce men, and then they kill them, of course, if that was their mission. So she's more on the side of things, on that side of the business. But here you have a more popular or popular within anime fans type of ninja woman, which is Okoi. Well, it depends, it's quite relative. Okoi, and she's more physically inclined. She's quite fast and strong. She's a bit naive in my opinion, but she also has a very interesting power that her skin, she's kind of like a vampire. Her skin drains the blood of those who touch her. And she actually, again, she uses that to her advantage, tricking others sexually, so that when they touch her, they get drained of their blood. And then you have her uncle, which is, let me see if I forget his name, Hyoma. Hyoma, which you can see right here, he's the bald guy in the corner. That guy. He has one of the coolest powers in the entire series, in my opinion. He basically can dive into walls and into the floor. It's like he's swimming within those solid substances, and he's also really powerful. He can basically like snap someone's neck with his hands quite easily, and he's one of my favorite characters actually. And I think it's a bit, some of his let's say his attitude or psychology is a bit disappointing, and that's something that I would like to address about this series, and something that I think adds more realism within the over-the-top fantasy. In this series, you're going to see human flaws in each of these characters. Even though they have these extraordinary abilities and powers, they still have, let's say, unsteady minds and hearts. Sometimes they blunder quite bad. So it's very interesting, let's say, like a counterweight to their awesome powers. And here you have Simon, the brother of Okoi. He's next to Okoi, next to her armpit. There he is. He is actually also a very, probably one of the most skilled sword fighters in the series. And his ability is basically perfect impersonation of anyone he wants to imitate. He just needs to make like a clay mask of anyone he wants to transform into, and he turns into that person. And this is really useful, really useful. Combined with his expertise in the use of swords, he's one of the deadliest ninja in my opinion. And you also have this other ninja, which is Yubei, and not famous, not that Yubei Yagyu. This is another Yubei. and he's disabled. He lacks legs and arms, but he moves kind of like a snake, and he's also a very knowledgeable astrologer, and he has some really awesome tricks up. I don't want to spoil them because they're actually really cool when they are revealed. But as you can see, these are the members of the Koga clan that need to be killed in order for the Iga to win. Now let's talk about the Iga ninja that the Koga need to kill in order to win. Let's talk about the granddaughter of Ogen. This is Oboro. At the center, you can see her with the there's a lot of glare. There she is with the pleasant smile and her yellow handkerchief or whatever. she's she's the granddaughter of Ogen, and she is quite incompetent at everything related to ninja. She's quite naive. She's terrible at fighting with swords or shuriken, anything ninja related. She is quite useless with that. Later in the series, you will see her will strengthening quite a bit and developing a bit more, would you say, ninja-like character. But probably what is her saving grace in combat is that her eyes cancel any other jutsu, any other mystical ability that the ninja use. She cancels it with her eyes. So it's a bit of a shame, because imagine if she were to be really skilled at fighting and she had those eyes that can cancel any power used against her. It would make her supreme, unmatched. And now let's talk about, you're going to hate this guy. This is Tensen. Tensen, I don't want to spoil why, but you could say he is quite unbeatable. But not because he is very skilled, but that there is an unbeatable quality to him. And he also, in my opinion, seems somewhat mediocre, because let's say he's also quite long-lived. So after all of those years, and he still gets defeated or outclassed at times, and you would think that he would, maybe he's a bit too dependent, or he relies too much on his, let's say, immortality. And so you could consider him to be somewhat of a mediocre character at times, but he's also, you could say he's one of the main villains of the series. I don't want to spoil many other things about this, but you're going to hate him by the end, and he's probably one of the most basest or instinctive ninja. That is, he lets go of his, he takes lets the inner beast control him, to put it in a way, and he does many vile and thug-like things. Really, really nasty character. And now you have this other character, which is Yashamaru. This is actually, he feels to me a bit like a very sad character at times, because he actually kind of like worships Tensen. He's kind of like almost has like a father and son relationship with Tensen, well, Tensen being the father and he the son. So he worships him, and sometimes he doesn't act against Tensen when he's doing so many vile things, because he worships him. He's kind of like dominated by Tensen. And oh, sorry, that's not Yashamaru. I think I said Yashamaru. That's Koshiro. So Koshiro can create these miniature whirlwinds. He's basically like, he throws a mini bomb into your face made out of air, killing you. So that's really lethal about him. Now there is something that will happen later on in the series to him. I think that, I don't want to spoil that, but you will see that he also has to develop some other type of perception because of that. So he, despite his pathetic state, in my opinion, of being a Tensen worshipper, he develops some interesting abilities later on in the series. And the sad thing also is that he is in love with Oboro. And as you know, Oboro is in love with Genosuke from the other ninja clan, so it's a bit of a tragic love. And you could say he is in a position similar to Kagero, that she is in love with her cousin, and here it's almost the same thing. And then you have Akeginu. Akeginu is this ninja woman right here, and she is in style somewhat similar to Kagero, and that she uses her, oh, I'm such a frail woman, to kill her enemies to get them to lower their guard. But she also has this interesting ability. She's basically like, she sweats blood. She produces like a bloody sweat and a bloody mist around her. She can also squirt blood. And this blood, well, it's very annoying for the opponent. Anyone who has been in some sort of like violent confrontation, or perhaps some violent sport, you know how annoying it is when blood falls on your eyes, and this, she basically creates that condition all the time. So it's quite difficult to fight against her. And then you have this guy, which is, sorry, let me see, Jingoro, who is right here. Let me see if I can. Here he is. He's this bizarre looking guy with not a very healthy color of skin. He has manipulated the chemical composition of his body to the point that he, when using salt, he can basically turn into some sort of blob, almost like a slug. And when he gets into contact with water, he solidifies himself. So this is quite useful for assassinations, because he can basically like squirm around very small places, niches and such, and wait for his prey to pass by, and he jumps and kills anyone he wants to murder. And then you have Nenki. Now Nenki, this guy with the hair growing out of his nose, he's basically an expert at manipulating his hair. His hair works as if it were tentacles, and he can also solidify his hair to provide protection, and he also creates like hair-like needles or even spears. So he's a very dangerous ninja, in my opinion, very powerful. And so it's and he lets his nose hair grow out like that, because that's additional weapons. And then you have sorry, let me see, check my list of names. Then Rosai. Rosai, he has a stretchy body. He's this old man with the huge head. He has a really stretchy body. He's almost like Mr. Fantastic from from the Fantastic Four. He can attack with his arms and legs in a very unusual way. And then you have Hotarubi. Hotarubi is the closest thing that I've seen in this series that resembles a pure Majutsushi type of character. That is, let's say, an oriental wizard. She constantly uses this mudra to summon these like illusionary butterflies to overwhelm and distract her enemies. They cannot get in their enemies' face and they don't know what to do. And she also has this pet snake that is has a lethal poison. So she's a character full of surprises, and she is in love with Yashamaru, the one who uses the strands that I told you at the beginning. I also forgot to mention that tragically enough, Akeginu is in love with I forget his name, Koshiro. And you know Koshiro is in love with Ogen, so that's quite sad. So the pacing of the series, I actually like it quite a bit. It starts with a somewhat mild or moody introduction, and suddenly it turns into this death race or death match where all of the ninja are moving about Japan, trying to kill the ninja specified in the scroll. They will fight other ninja and other people unrelated, but most of the conflict is centered around the Koga ninja versus the Iga ninja. And the deaths are quite tragic, and as I was telling you, this is a very gritty series, even despite the power. So for example, if a character gets stabbed, it's almost completely certain that that character is going to die, or that that character won't fight as effectively as before. It's not going to be some pulpy over the top thing when they get stabbed with many arrows or spears or swords and they are still up and running and such. Now here, if they get hurt seriously, they're probably going to die. And you see that this conflict is not also a conflict between ninja clans, but also a conflict within each of the ninja. Each of the ninja have emotional and psychological issues Some of them do not overcome these issues throughout the entire series. And of course, don't expect the ninja to survive this ordeal. The deaths are quite tragic. Some of them are quite gruesome. And it's a bit of a. The entire series could be called an action tragedy because everything is quite tragic. And I also think it's a bit of like a study of human condition and psychology. You see how all of them sometimes they are manipulated based on those and that uncertainty that they hold in their hearts and in their minds. And it also what would you say, exposes the corruption of politics, because all of this conflict could have been avoided if it weren't for the whims of Ieyasu Tokugawa. And I always told my friends, why didn't this Tokugawa, why didn't he create some sort of like a mini duel between both of his grandchildren to fight it out between each other? It doesn't have to be to the death, and then they get to decide who rules Japan. And even though this is fictional, this series is based on real life events, but it has a fantasy twist to it. I still think that many conflicts and wars in real life happen because of the whims of people who send others to die, but it's also the fault of those who let themselves be manipulated by them. Some could argue that, for example, the ninja in Basilisk, they were like honor bound to serve the shogun and their own clans, but sometimes you have to break the rules, in my opinion, if you want to avoid bloodshed, because not all of them needed to die. I'm also quite surprised as to why if only those two clans could set aside their differences and join together against that tyranny, because eventually the shogunate fell. So I do not see why they didn't risk at fighting this tyranny. They were still going to get killed in the ninja wars. And so it's a really tragic series. But as I was telling you, it has many lessons about life, about our hearts and minds, and about how some people get trapped in their own grudges or some ideas that they got hammered into when they were very little. As I was telling you, you were going to see ninja who are kind of like dogmatized or programmed through their education and religion into believing certain things. And they act like that, and like for what I was telling you about Tencent, they practically worship him. They do not act against him even when he's acting in the most vile way possible. And there are also many touching moments that have to do with the love between Genosuke and Oboro. How despite all of the conflicts and wars and fights, they are always trying, they have that hope of trying to come together and bring peace between the two ninja clans. You're also going to see some other famous historical characters like Hattori Hanzo. Do you remember from Samurai Shodown? He appears here. So that's also interesting if you want to see some details on that period of Japan. But although keep in mind that there's still quite a bit of fantasy and fiction. So overall, I recommend that you watch Basilisk. Although it's a tragic series. I'm going to put some links in the description below to the opening and ending. The ending has this really sad or melancholic song. I think it expresses the outcome of the series quite well. But it also has some pretty awesome battles. If you like ninja fights where you have to win using your mind and your trickery and all that, because it's quite obvious that in warfare, trickery and deception and espionage gives you the advantage and the edge. Those who treat conflict and wars as sort of like an honorable sport are the first ones to die. And this becomes evident in Basilisk. This is a very gritty series, so that you could also watch it because of the awesome fights and tactics that they employ. All of the ninja, despite having over-the-top abilities and such, they feel quite professional and effective as fighters, as warriors. They are not those that need to like attack an enemy dozens of times until he dies. When they deliver the cut or the strike at the right vulnerable place, that person is going to die. And you see those types of gritty battles here in Basilisk, behind all the flashiness of the over-the-top jutsu and moves and even that magic of Hotarubi, etc. So I hope you will give Basilisk a shot. It's very worth watching in my opinion. Well, thanks for watching this video. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. Oh, and before I forget, I'm also going to put a link in the description below to some ninja role-playing games, because this series serves as inspiration if you like to play the Ninja Crusade 2nd Edition or Tenra Bansho, or you want to play like a ninja version of Ova or Valor. I'm going to put a link in the description below to those reviews. In fact, I recommend that you watch the Clan Pack 1 for the Ninja Crusade, because some of the powers presented here, I feel that they were inspired a bit in some of the ninja that you will see here in Basilisk. Once again, thank you and see you later.